A very good morning to all. This is Dr. Mavra Shwaib, Assistant Professor, School of Education, BBDU. Today, what I'm going to discuss is a very important topic apart from your syllabus, that is micro teaching. You must have heard the name micro teaching in your teaching process. Micro is what? Micro is a very, what does micro means? Micro means mini. So it is a mini teaching technique. That means a small technique of teaching. So it is a practicing technique which you will learn before doing your final teaching. Okay, so we are going to discuss today's micro teaching, that is concept, cycle, and characteristics. Okay, so who discovers the micro teaching technique? First of all, Dr. D.W. Allen, he discovered and his group discovered micro teaching in 1963 in America. It is basically a scaled down teaching technique. So why scaled down? Because here scale down means reducing. Here the teaching, the size of the teaching, the lecture, everything is reduced to the normal, reduced from the as compared to the normal size and normal class time. Okay. So as you can see in the picture also, here are very few amount of students which are studying. So micro teaching is basically a teaching, it is just a teaching technique, how you will teach in the classroom. So a very small amount of example is being set for your practice. Coming to the meaning of micro teaching, so teaching of a small unit of content to the small group of students, that is 6 to 10 numbers, in a small amount of 5 to 7 minutes. This means micro teaching. Okay, so micro teaching is basically it is a scaled down technique. Why scaled down? Because the content which is being taught is reduced to a small unit, to a small group of students, and a small amount of time, that is it is reduced to 5 to 7 minutes only. It is basically a skill training technique. Here you will learn the skills of teaching in classroom. It is a short session teaching, and students experience the teaching techniques, the skills of teaching in classroom, obviously to improve the skills of experienced teachers. It is also being practiced, like some of you have been working somewhere, so but you are not a proper teacher, so you will automatically practice the skills by which you will learn how to stand in the class, how to deal with the students, how to teach in the class. So experienced teachers can also learn these techniques, these skills. So micro teaching cycle is basically it is a process of planning, teaching, feedback, again replanning, reteaching, and refeedback. Here, the student plan, teach, gets the feedback, then he replan, reteach, and refeedback has been given to the student. Now, the setting of the micro teaching class as given by NCERT states that teaching session should be of 6 minutes, feedback should be of 6 minutes, replanning should be of 12 minutes, reteaching again should be of 6 minutes, refeedback again 6 minutes. That total consists of 36 minutes. That means your class of the micro teaching will consist of a 36 minutes class where you will teach for 6 minutes, you will get feedback for 6 minutes, you will replan again, then 12 minutes, then again reteaching for 6 minutes, and re-feedback for 6 minutes. What are the characteristics of micro teaching? The duration of teaching as well as number of students are less. As I have already told, that the class size is reduced to only 6 to 10 students. The content is divided into smaller units, which makes teaching easier. Only one teaching skill is considered at a time. Only one skill you will perform in the class at a time. There is a provision of immediate feedback. Now here, as you teach, you will spontaneously you will be getting the feedback also. Now, in micro teaching, there is a facility of replanning, reteaching, and re-evaluation also. It puts teacher under the microscope. Obviously, when you are teaching, everybody is watching you. Then ultimately, you are considered under a microscope. Everybody is keeping an eye on you. All the faults of the teacher are observed here, and the problem of discipline can also be controlled. Now, phases of micro teaching. See, so there are basically three phases: pre-active phase, interactive phase, and post-active phase. In pre-active phase, this is basically a knowledge acquisition phase where you analyze, discuss, and observe. Then comes the interactive phase where it is a skill acquisition phase where you prepare micro lesson, practice that skill, and evaluate your performance. Third is the post-active phase, that is transfer phase. Now here you've learned everything and transfer of skill to actual teaching situation occurs. Coming to the advantages of micro teaching, again the modification of teaching behavior. Obviously, once you are teaching, you will get the feedback. Again, you will re-evaluate yourself and reteach. That is the modification of your behavior ultimately happens. Then developing teaching skills, developing teaching efficiency, improving your teaching practice, individualized training, and continuous reinforcement. So these are the advantages of micro teaching. If you compare the micro teaching and a traditional teaching, then see, in traditional teaching, the size of the classroom consists of 40 to 60 students, whereas in micro teaching, the size is reduced to 6 to 10 students. In traditional teaching, the teacher practices several skills at a time. Here, the teacher takes up to one skill at a time. That the duration of traditional teaching is 40 to 45 minutes, whereas in micro teaching the duration of time for teaching is 6 minutes only. And coming to the traditional teaching, immediate feedback is not available. Here the teacher cannot get the immediate feedback, whereas in micro teaching immediate feedback is being provided. The classroom, the teaching is totally controlled. It happens in a controlled situation, whereas in traditional teaching, it cannot. Teaching becomes complex in traditional teaching, and in micro teaching, teaching is relatively simple. Now, the role of the supervisor is vague. It is not clear in traditional teaching, whereas the role of supervisor is specific and well defined to improve teaching in micro teaching. The pattern of the classroom interaction cannot be studied in traditional teaching, whereas pattern of classroom interaction can be studied objectively. I hope it is clear to you. Thank you, class.